greatest selection of armor and items that he can equip in this game. And we take advantage of that to glitch a number of things. With the route going on, we have the thief doing a significant amount of melee damage with the equipment that we pick up, so we go ahead and give him he will be the strongest damage dealer with the levels and the equipment that we're getting in this run. And we also pick up the white mage and the black mage to use specific spells on that we'll pick up later in the run. So when the race has begun, you'll see here in the opening menu, both of them will go to the weapon shop and buy a hammer, and then using the equipment glitch I described earlier, they will glitch it into a piece of armor called a knight's armor and put one on each of their characters. That will reduce the damage from most enemy attacks down to almost nothing at this point in the game. And then they will make it one more and then sell that for money and use the money to buy potions, antidotes, and phoenix downs. And that should be the bulk of the shopping they need for the early portion of the game. So we see here, Dubldrop got a slightly better early menu. But they're off and they're making their way over to the Chaos Shrine now. The encounters on the way over to the shrine are generally pretty easy to deal with. They're not very dangerous to us. And the best way to deal with them in most cases is just a run. Throughout most of this run, you'll see us running away from most encounters that we can run away from. If you see Dubldrop or Indy fighting something, it's generally because it's one of two things. It's either it's unrunnable, or it's something that they will struggle to run from, or that could be dangerous to them if they fail to run from it, so they will opt to kill it. Early on, these goblins can't do much damage. All they can do is ambush us and waste a little bit of time, but they don't particularly pose any threat to us. So Indy enters the shrine first, and he will quickly detour down to this room to pick up another piece of equipment that we will use with the equipment glitch, in this case a leather cap. And once they have equipped that, it happens to share the same item ID as the weapon called the Judgment Staff in the weapon table. So using this, we will glitch one Judgment Staff onto each of the characters. This staff is probably the strongest weapon we can get in terms physically, but it also, when used as an item, will cast the spell Flare, which will help us clear larger packs of enemies, larger packs of unrunnable enemies or bosses or anything. So we'll take care of that as quickly as possible. Double is the first one to get to the boss, Garland. Indy's making his way over, but he's got one of his characters poisoned. His character can't die from poison at this point. He can only be reduced down to one. Garland's strategy is very simple. We just smack him over the head with our Judgment Staffs. The flare animation from using it as an item may be able to kill Garland in one animation, but the animation itself takes about 8 seconds, so it's generally faster to just attack him with our characters. So after we kill Garland, we rescued the Princess Sarah and returned to the Cornelia Castle. And as thanks for doing that, the king has agreed to build us a bridge that will let us continue on our adventures. And the princess also rewards us with an item called a lute, which we'll need towards the end of the game in order to advance through the final dungeon. Double is the first one to get into this cutscene here. So this is the bridge being built. Oh, I should probably bring that up too. Yeah. If you guys in chat have any questions about the run, feel free to just type in chat, and we'll try to answer them as best to our ability. Okay. So there's a forced cutscene. There's not much they can do to speed this up at this point, and it's one of a handful of short cutscenes that they'll have to sit throughout this game. But in general, this is a much faster version of Final Fantasy I than most other versions at this point, due to this equipment glitch significantly shortens the route and the grinding that necessary to make it through the game, and in some of these cases, there's just a lot of quality of life improvements from the original versions. Being able to buy items in bulk, being able to skip cutscenes like you see Dubldrop doing here. Morning, cat. What? Here. What's here? So Dubldrop is now making his way. Now that the bridge is built, he's making his way across the bridge, and he's heading towards the next town, Provoca. Once there is actually an NPC he can talk to that would let him acquire a ship. In order to reach the next destination, we're going to have to sail across the sea here. So the ship will help us out. Right now, they're both getting a bunch of wolf encounters, which are not particularly dangerous, but they can waste a lot of time early on, as they can be somewhat difficult to run from with the equipment we have right now. And Dubldrop getting ambushed by goblins. Both of these guys are getting some pretty horrendous encounter RNG to start the game. But these are thankfully not dangerous encounters, so this really isn't doing anything other than wasting time. Unfortunately, in a race, that's one of the worst things one of the things you don't want to see too much of. So Indy is the first to reach Provoca, so and right behind him is Double. They'll both head over and talk over here to the pirate BK, and BK will sick all his pirates on us. There's 9 pirates here, and the easiest way for us to clear is just to use the Judgment Staff on any one of our characters. Our Thief and our Mages are generally capable of doing enough damage to kill them with one blow. So we will usually staff with those characters. And the Thief's intelligence is kind of low, but it should be enough to kill the enemies, and his agility, which determines his turn order, is high enough that it's often a good idea to also use the staff with him. So they both have it, and it's a pretty close race heading out of town. So now they both grab the ship, and now they're going to sail over towards the next town, Elfheim. And then we'll see if they opt to go shopping in Elfheim, or if they're just going to continue on to the Marsh Cave that they need to. That's the next place that they can go to. Both get an encounter. Dubldrop is getting a preemptive encounter. Preemptive encounters are runnable every time on the first try, so it helps them. Preemptives are generally will save you time over the course of this run. Ambushes, obviously, each enemy in the party will get one attack and can slow you down. So it's better to get ambushed by smaller parties of enemies, or generally weaker enemies that don't do dangerous moves early in the game, such as goblins. Both making their way over. Indy stopped into Elfheim and then immediately exited it, and that actually advanced him 2 tiles on the world map towards the Marsh Cave. So that may have saved him 2 tiles that he could have gotten an encounter on. But neither one opted to shop in there. There is an item we can pick up there called Gold Needles, which will help cure petrification. Nothing is in danger of petrifying us at this point in the game, but it's something we would use for safety within the run. So Double is the first one, it looks like, to get into the Marsh Cave. And they're both making their way down to the bottom floor of the Marsh Cave. They're going to enter one room that is guarded by a number of enemies called Pisco Demons, and loot their chest, which is holding a crown, needed for us to advance farther. Again, the enemies here don't pose a lot of threat. There can be some undead enemies which will have a chance to paralyze our characters on attack if they hit us enough. A large pack of them could do some damage and waste us a bunch of time. But other than that, there's not many enemies that can do a lot of damage. Dubldrop here is the first to fight the Pisca Demons. These enemies can actually hit pretty hard and have a pretty high chance to crit us. And critical hits ignore defense. So it's better to heal up before you go into the fight. And then the easiest way to clear them, pretty much regardless of size with the equipment we have, is to just use the Judgment Staff and flare them all at once. So Double has now picked up the crown, and he's gonna take that crown over to the Western Keep, to the Dark Elf Astos, who won't talk to us without the crown. So we make our way into the cave, and then we grab the crown, and then we head right back out, because there's nothing else we need in here. Both of them are making their way pretty quickly. Indy's having a little worse luck, it looks like. And Double got stopped by a bat there for a second. You'll see throughout a bunch of dungeons that there are a bunch of bat NPCs which don't really serve any purposes, but they can just block your path or force you to take some extra steps in the dungeons and just generally annoy you. In dungeons with shorter hallways, they can definitely get in your way and just waste a bunch of time. So they both heading straight north up to the Western Keep along this path here. Ogre encounter is not particularly dangerous for us. Indy opted not to heal his characters yet. But Double's characters are pretty healthy at the moment. Double's just a few steps outside of it now. Once we get in there... Oop, it's almost a sync. There we go. So Indy briefly takes the lead, and they go in and talk to the Dark Elf Astos up here. Astos is actually in possession of an item called the Crystal Eye, which we need to advance further in the story. The only way to get it from him is to, unfortunately, take him down. The strategy for this fight that we'll use is he's got about 420 hit points, so we will opt to use the Judgment Staff as an item on our mages, because they will do the most damage with it, and then we will attack physically with the Warrior and Thief. Astos has a chance to cast Death on one of our party members on the opening move for him. And if he does so, it's one of the few ways to guarantee that that we have a better chance to end it on round one. Doesn't look like he actually managed to land it on either character, or even use it this time, which is pretty rare to see both players dodge it. So if nobody dies, it should be a one-round fight most times. If somebody dies, there's a chance it could go 2 rounds, generally. But it's a pretty safe... Again, it's not a pretty dangerous fight. Astos does give a lot of experience, though, so it's better for characters not to die or not to get half death cast on them, especially the mages. Throughout the run, we want our mages to reach specific levels by a certain point. So if he had cast it on them, it would have slowed them down a little bit for the grind that we have later on. I call it a grind, but it will take maybe 2 minutes at the end. So they're both making their way now back to their ship. Just fleeing all these encounters, because once again, many of these aren't particularly dangerous. They just will waste a lot of time. You can see Dubldrop, his warrior got paralyzed there. If that happens to a large portion of the party, the runner may opt to try to staff, or to use the staff to clear out a pack of undead just to make sure that his whole party doesn't get paralyzed. If your whole party gets paralyzed, you're basically at the mercy of the RNG. And that could waste you many, many minutes, if not wipe your party entirely. So it's very, very dangerous to leave yourself in a state where you could be fully paralyzed. Dubldrop getting an encounter on the sea. In general, some sea encounters early in the game are some of the most time-wasting encounters there are. This particular shark is just... can be tough to run from, but he's not a particularly dangerous enemy, just as many of the other enemies. But it took him, I think, double 3 rounds to run from that, which wastes a lot of time. Now they've sailed up here. They sailed past Cornelia where they started the game, and now they've gone up here. And they're going to continue north until they find Matoya's cave. The Crystal Eye belongs to Matoya, and we're returning it to her. And she will give us another item that will allow us to proceed along our path. the first half hour or so, this is a very large fetch quest that lets us slowly gain access to a larger portion of the map, and then after we kill the first fiend, we will have much greater access to most of the map, and we'll make our way as quickly as we can through the other fiends. So we go up here to Matoya. This is a brief cutscene while she's telling us her plight, which we already know that she doesn't have her eye. So we give her crystal eye back, and we get the Jolt tonic. We can use the Jolt tonic. We'll travel back to Alfheim, and we'll give it to the Elf Prince, who's actually under a sleeping spell right now. And the tonic will wake him up, and he will reward us with the Mystic Key, one of the most important early game items that we need in terms of accessing locations. There are many treasures, especially early in this section, that are locked in rooms that are in rooms locked by the Mystic Key. So we need to acquire the Mystic Key quickly, and then to be able to access those rooms, and then go in and loot the items that we need to proceed on. So the next step is to go pick up the Mystic Key at Alfheim by giving the Jolt tonic to the Elf Prince. Indy's the first one there. Double's right behind. So these guys have been trading back and forth pretty evenly so far throughout this early part of the game. I mean, the RNG of a lot of the encounters can allow for many leapfrogging in terms of who's leading and who's falling behind. So Indy gives it and gets the Mystic Key, and then he exits the cave to the left and then re-enters the castle immediately, and then heads to the right instead, because there's a room in the back of the castle that was previously locked without the Mystic Key. That was previously locked by the Mystic Key, and in there is a mithril hammer in one of the chests, and this will perform the next item glitch we're going to do, the equipment glitch here. We're going to use this mithril hammer, and we're going to turn it into an item called the Thief's Armlet, and we're going to put 3 of them on each character on the helmet, armor, and glove slots. Now there are 4 actual equipment slots for each character, including a shield slot, but there's a risk of a soft lock if we equip certain items on a shield slot. So through the majority of the run, we will not equip anything on the shield slot. But they will put 1 copy each of the Thief's Armlet on each of the characters' other weapon slots, and then because that will raise their agility and their defense, and raising their agility will help us with the ability to run from encounters. And then after they get out of there, they will quickly go into the Alfheim town and just buy a handful of gold needles for safety against petrification later in the run. And after that, then they exit out and head back north to Cornelia Castle. Here you see Dubldrop has already made his way back to Cornelia Castle, and we are picking up an item called the Nitro Powder. This was again a locked room that we needed the Mystic Key for. So this is an item we need now. We've been more or less locked into this sea for the early portion of this game, and we don't have a way to venture out throughout the entire world map. But if we take the Nitro Powder up to a settlement of dwarves at Mount Dwerger, and we hand it to one specific dwarf, they will open a canal that will allow us to access the rest of the sea on the map. So Double's on his way now to Mount Dwerger to give it to the dwarves. Indy has just picked it up, and he's now going to head back to his ship and then sail over there. So Double makes it through here. This is a short cutscene. They both actually have pretty good times here at this cutscene right now. They're both getting some, both making pretty good pace right here. And he's getting a bunch of encounters, unfortunately for him, but He's making his way through, but you can see that he's more quickly running from wolves and having an easier time in general of doing so, now that he's got the Thief's Armlet on all of his characters. There's a quick skippable cutscene here on Dubldrop's side. You can shorten that little animation that shows the canal being blown open. And then Narek wanders off to the side. That's the name of the dwarf we just gave it. We never see him again. So Double will now head back to his ship, and then he'll proceed through the opening that we just blew open. And just beyond that is another town called Melman, where we'll pick up the strongest weapon that we'll be using throughout this run, called the Barbarian Sword. It's not for sale there. There's an item called the Steel Gloves that we can purchase, and it happens to correspond to the item ID of this Barbarian Sword that we're going to use. It's the strongest sword of the game. It's normally only obtained in the bonus dungeon exclusive to this PSP version. So this isn't something you would normally see in an NES, a PlayStation, or a Game Boy Advance version of this game. And by virtue of the equipment glitch, we're going to be able to put a copy of it on each character, and they'll be massively overpowered and capable of dealing all but one-shotting most enemies, if not all enemies. The only exception being most bosses will probably take more than one hit. So Dubldrop is now here in Melman, and he walks up here to the armor shop to pick up the steel gloves. First, he's going to sell the knight's armors that we started the game with, or that we glitched at the very start of the game, just for money purposes. And then here, he unfortunately equipped the steel gloves. He didn't want to do that. He wants to put, wants to make sure you don't equip it. You want to just scroll to your glove slot and then have the weapon slot selected on whatever the next character is that you want to put the Barbarian Sword on. Putting that on, unfortunately, means he has to take an extra second in the menu to take it off first, and then he has to try again to re-glitch that. So now they're both all set with this, and they're just repositioning their ship and then heading down to the Earth Cave. The first Fiend Lich is down in the Earth Cave and is the first major boss of the game. But there are five floors in the Cavern of Earth, and unfortunately we cannot access the fourth or fifth floors at this time. So in order to access those, we need an item called the Earth Rod that is located in a nearby cave, but it is guarded by a giant which is blocking our path, and he requires an item called the Star Ruby in order to move out of our way. So on the third floor here, we'll find a chest with the Star Ruby that will move the giant, but it's guarded by a mini boss called the Vampire. So the first thing we're going to do is make our way down to the third floor, circle around the third floor, and kill the Vampire, then pick up the Star Ruby so that we can go ahead and grab the Earth Rod later on. Double's here, and this is now the third floor that he's on. This is the first probably dangerous point of the run. On this floor, we can encounter cockatrices, which can petrify our party members on attack. And there are also Pisco Demons, the ones that we saw earlier in Marsh Cave. They can be an encounter here, and they're an unrunnable encounter. So if they happen to see Pisco Demons here, they're going to be forced to kill them. Neither player choosing to save here. This is a common safety save spot in races because people have lost runs to ambushes from cockatrices. So Indy's getting some Pisco Demons and is forced to kill them while he circles around the floor. Double's just getting some wolves, which are not unrunnable, just could be slightly difficult to run from. They do have a chance to poison his character, though. Double is the first one to make it to the Vampire now. Indy does finally take a safety save. The vampire is going to go down in one hit at this point through our overpowered barbarian swords. So in the chest just beyond him is the Star Ruby. First, Double's going to just use an antidote on our warrior to cure that poison. Every tile they walk with poison, they'll take 1 damage on that character. One of the early goals in setting this up is you want our thief and warrior to have a specific amount of HP around the time that we want to grind levels for our mages. So we want to have them. You want to have them generally less than 70 HP to set up an attack that a certain boss can use later on that may wipe them quickly, so that they can die, and then our mages can be alive and get extra experience during a short grind sequence. Indy taking another save. Double's just working his way out of this floor now. Actually, they've both taken down the vampire at this point, so now they're both just working through all the encounters here. They're both getting bogged down pretty badly. Another poison for Double on his thief. It can be advantageous depending on when you get poisoned, because it allows you to... There's a certain control of your character's health in case you overheal them or they have too much HP. You can just walk on tiles and lower their health to a much more preferable level later on. But they're both making their way out. So they had to go all the way down to the 3rd floor and then grab that chest and then walk all the way back out. They're both on Indy's back on the 1st floor now. Double's just about there. Indy is out now. So Indy will start heading north, back towards the ship, but then he's going to head left instead to the Giant's Cave, instead of heading right back towards your ship. Double's getting an ambush by a pack of enemies called Shadows. These enemies are actually, every time, for whatever reason, they've been programmed that every encounter with them will either be preemptive or an ambush. You're more likely to see them in a preemptive than an ambush, but if you do see them in an ambush, it just wastes a bunch of time. So they're both in the cave now. This Double's the first one to hand it to the giant. The star Ruby up to the giant so that the giant will move out of the way. But Indy's right behind. So they're making their way out. So Double is through the cave, and now he's on the other side, and he's going to head to the Sage's Cave at the bottom of this little section here. And in there, the Sage, now that we've killed the vampire, will reward us with the Earth Rod that we need. The Earth Rod will allow us access to the bottom floors of the Earth Cave. So they're both here. Got with the item. Well, this run goes, Vlad A. Tepis asks, how quick could the run be done without any encounters? You're typically going to see on the order of anywhere from like 170 to about 200 random encounters, probably on an average run throughout this tournament. And the time would usually be somewhere around, it's about an hour and a half to an hour 35, maybe longer if you have to do that. We actually discovered recently that there's a low encounter cheat for this game, and which is significantly reduces the number of enemy encounters. And we managed to get the encounter rate down to maybe a quarter of what it usually is using this cheat. And the current record with that one that I'm aware of is an hour and 10 minutes, which is a good 16 minutes lower than the current world record, I believe. So if you could shave most of the encounters off there, you could probably go under an hour, maybe. It's not a legitimate category right now, but it's a very interesting cheat from that kind of perspective. Indy taking a save at the very beginning of Earth Cave. Again, he's not in great danger at this point. He's just guarding against the possibility of an ambush from cockatrices. Because if they happen to ambush and petrify his party before he can react, it can put him in a very, very bad situation. Double is not too worried about that. It is a very low risk of that happening, but it does seem to happen occasionally. So Double is just continuing on. Looks like Indy is just barely ahead, but they're both getting about the same number of encounters right now. Just making their way through. Indy's just a hair ahead of Double at the moment. Nothing dangerous on the first 2 floors. On the 3rd floor is again where you might see cockatrices, and Pisco Demons can also spawn on the 3rd or lower floors. Here we see Double getting Pisco Demons, so he's going to be slowed a little bit while he's forced to kill them. And here we see Indy's getting the cockatrices, but fortunately he's getting them in a preemptive formation so he can freely run from them without worry. Double is unfortunately not so lucky, and now he's getting attacked by them. It will be dangerous. It won't be easy for the cockatrices to hit our characters, but they can still do that. They actually do manage to petrify his black mage, but he did buy the needles earlier, so it's not a problem to cure that and then continue on. And Indy is the first one to reach this little area here. That little slab there was guarding a staircase. We needed the earth rod in order to remove that slab that was blocking the staircase at the end of the 3rd floor. So now with that, he's now on. Yep, these are live runs right now. They're both going. Indy's taking a quick safety save at the very, very beginning of the 4th floor. And making his way down to Lich. Double's right at the end of the 3rd floor now. And he gets an encounter on the final step. An ambush, no less. Indy's up. Indy tries to run from Pisco Demons, and unfortunately that way it's just going to waste a bunch of time. Because you can't run from them. So it'll waste a round of combat. Indy opting to use his Judgment Staff to clear this pack. It's honestly just up to runner preference whether or not they want to attack with their Barbarian Swords, or if they want to use the Judgment Staff to clear a pack. I mean, the number of enemies you run into and what commands your characters are already on due to the memory cursor can play a factor in your choices. And he runs into another pack, and since he's already got his characters ready to line up, he can just hold X in that case, and all the commands will repeat from the last time he was in a battle, which will just quickly get him into a fight and then cast a staff. Both into a Wraith encounter here. They can be slightly difficult to run from, but they're not particularly dangerous. They can paralyze your party, though. So larger packs of them are more dangerous. Indy, again, just slightly ahead, but he gets an encounter, and Double overtakes him once more. See if Double gets him. Before they, at the very, very bottom here, we're going to see the first boss Lich. They're very likely to take a safety save here, because with the low levels of our party, Lich is capable of casting a spell called Blazara, which may one-shot our party regardless of anything we do. So Double's going to be the first one into the fight, and he needs to do 1,200 damage to take Lich down. That will usually take 2 or 3 attacks from our characters. He's got 800. He's got him down. that should be it on Indy's side too. Yep, they both get it down. Lich doesn't get a chance to even take an attack on either one. So now they finally defeated the first of the 4 fiends that they need, and restored the first of the 4 crystals back that they need in order to access the final dungeon. So we're treated now to a brief cutscene. We are shown, meanwhile, at Earthgift Shrine, which is one of the bonus dungeons added in the Game Boy Advance, and it's also in this version. After defeating the Lich will grant access to this dungeon. But in this particular run, we won't be seeing that. But after there's a bonus dungeon that opens up after each of the main bosses is defeated in this run, and a cutscene plays after each one, just to show us which is which, and that each one is now open for us. We won't see any of the bonus dungeons in these runs because it's just there's nothing faster about venturing in there in terms of equipment or gaining experience or anything that we need in order for this run, so we will not see any of those. Double gets out and he's making his way to the ship and runs into a pack of undead. Indy gets into a pack of shadows with an ambush, which is unfortunate for him. Again, just wasting time. These aren't particularly dangerous encounters. Once again, they're just good at wasting a lot of time, which is just bad for race situations. So now they're both on their ship and heading towards the next town, Crescent. Now that the vampire is down, there is a circle of sages that will reward us for defeating the first fiend, in this case Lich, and will give us a canoe that will let us access some shallow water and traverse some rivers. And we need that in order to access the next few dungeons that we're going to. Double's getting in the unfortunate sea encounter here with the big eyes, which have a chance to. Their only move is to basically gaze at your party members and paralyze them, and 3 out of his 4 party members were paralyzed, so for safety's sake, Double opts to take them out. Double's having some atrocious luck with trying to run right here. And Indy is overtaking him again very quickly, very briefly. They're almost in sync again. Yeah, it's very common to have a lot of encounters that may or may not let you flee, and it can slow you down and frustrate you. And managing your emotions during a run is something you definitely have to do, particularly in a race. I mean, you can find yourself behind, and then maybe you panic and you're trying to catch up to your opponent, and you make a mistake in doing so, or you happen to be ahead and you think you're safe, and then something can flip it around. So they enter into Crescent here, and they stop first to pick up in the item shop, buy a bunch of ethers, and then they will head up to this weapon shop to purchase a mithril axe so that they can perform the next equipment glitch that we're going to do here. They're going to turn it into a black garb and put it on their thief and their black mage via the warrior. The warrior is the one who can actually try to equip that and put it on, so he'll be able to glitch it over there. It adds even more agility and defense than the Thief's Armlet does, so once again, this should raise our success with running from encounters from this point forward. The only reason he puts it on 2 rather than more characters is because with the glitch, only 2 of the characters are adjacent to the one that can actually equip the item. So in order to reach more than that, he would have to do a formation change in the menu, which can waste time at this point in time, and it's not really necessary. So now that we have that, we have the ethers, and we have that, we're going to head back to our ship and then head up to the ice cave with the newfound canoe that we have. And this is where This is going to be probably the most dangerous dungeon in the run for the runners at this point. Ice Cave is full of just a lot of dangerous encounters and a lot of other encounters that can basically just waste you a ton of time. So there's going to be a lot of things that can happen here that could perhaps decide or maybe keep this a very, very close race. I guess we're just going to have to see at this point. Double's warrior is currently dead, and it looks like he's planning to leave it that way. The grind section will be coming up towards the end of Ice Cave. So at that point, he's going to want to have his warrior and thief dead so that the mages can quickly grind. Has anybody died in the Ice Cave in this tournament? I don't know if anyone has straight up had to forfeit because of the Ice Cave, but it's I mean, you'll probably see our runners take safety saves throughout this cave. Because this is just a dangerous point in the run, and it would be very, very unfortunate to lose a run here, because that would waste a lot of time, and forfeits are even more costly in terms of time. So it's just not worth the risk of not saving here. Indy is the first one in, and he immediately runs into Pisco Demons, which again are unrunnable here. Okay, so actually Double's going to opt to revive his warrior instead of leaving him dead, to give him one more character that can he can enter a command for, one additional character he can try to run with. Okay. Double took a quick safety save, and he didn't like the encounter that he got, so he did a quick reset to try to proceed a little faster. Indy's on the second floor right now, but he's running into Ice Gigas and Winterwolf, another unrunnable encounter. Double is... So you can see on Double's side, if you look carefully at his characters, his warrior and thief are at relatively low health values. Coming up, they'll be facing an enemy called the Evil Eye, and they're hoping to just pass a turn at the start of this fight with the Evil Eye, so that Evil Eye will cast Thundara and kill off the warrior and the thief in the first round, and then at that point he'll finish off the fight with his mages, and then continue to grind the Evil Eye fight for a few minutes in order to gain some levels for the mages. They will need these levels for some spells later on in the run. So Indy is through and has done the first fall down that he needs to do. This cave is a little bit of a maze. There's not a lot of... You can't always switch floors using stairs, so there's some tiles that have cracked ice that you would have to step onto and fall down to lower levels, and then work your way around in order to make your way over to where we're going. And now Indy is just outside of the fight area. He's already got his warrior dead, so just his thief has to die before this grind. Oh, they're both right there. They're basically tied right now. So they're both going to try to defend here and try to get a Thundara out of it. Indy gets it first try, which immediately kills off his thief. Oops, and then he tries to flee, which is a mistake, but doesn't cost him. And then now Dubldrop gets Thundara. Thundara will typically do between 70 and 80 damage to all of your characters, so we try to have our thief and warrior under 70 by this point in the run. Indy's taking a quick safety save, and he also opted to heal up his warrior, or his white mage and his black mage, in case Evil Eye happens to attack first in a future attack. So now they're just going to grind here for a number of battles, maybe about 10 battles against this, in order to grind up levels for their mages. The goal here is, usually your mages are around 11 or 12 at this point in the run, and we want to get them to level 18, and then we will usually fight them one more time so that we have some experience towards level 19, and then we will head towards the next dungeon, the Citadel of Trials, and by the end of Citadel of Trials, our goal is to have our mages be level 19. That is the level that they need in order to cast all the spells that they will need for the run. So the route is designed to come here, quickly kill off our melee characters so that the other guys can grind, and then just get enough experience for our guys so that they should have enough to get there. Double looks to be at level 17 right now. And he didn't get a level on that one, so this next one should put his characters up to level 18. And then he'll probably do one more fight here. And this should put him most of the way towards 19. And the encounters he's likely to find in the Citadel of Trials are going to push him to level 19. So now that he's got enough experience, he's going to resurrect his party and heal all of them up. In this case, he's actually going to keep them low on the Warrior and the Thief, and I'm not really sure why he would do that over just full healing, unless he just thinks it's slightly faster to just get them over 1 HP or not. But after they do that, they have to fall down and get over a tile. Indy, unfortunately, didn't like his encounter, so once again, he took a safety save and opted to reset, just to try to get a more favorable encounter on this tile. It's a forced encounter on that tile. Yeah, they're both done with the grind at this point, so they're both heading on their way out. Again, it's a pretty even race. They're both struggling to run a little bit from these packs of undead. Double sees a Mind Flare, which is a rather easy to run from enemy, but they have some dangerous attacks that can really, really hurt the party if they're unlucky. They have an attack called Mind Blast, which can paralyze your whole party if you're very, very unlucky. They have a chance to attack and kill your characters on death. You can see over on Indy's, he got a pack of 3 of them, and one of them happened to insta-kill the Thief. Neither one of them is getting particularly lucky on this way out right now, but they're fighting through it. Looks like Double's the first one out, and he's going to head back now towards his ship. He's getting another ambush as soon as he gets out. Okay, they're both out now. They're both just making their way along the river here, trying to get back to their ship, and then once they have their ship, they're going to sail south along the coast until they see a desert, and then they're going to enter the desert and use the levistone they just picked up in the ice cave that was being guarded by the Evil Eye, and that is the item we need in order to power the airship and to raise it from under the sands. So once we have the airship, we shouldn't be seeing any more sea encounters at that point. And it's a much faster mode of travel than both walking and sailing, and has no risk of encounters. So we should be able to travel much faster. So once again, they're just almost in sync. It's been a really, really close race between these guys right now. Indy was just slightly ahead at the moment. He may have sailed a little wide. Maybe not. No. Desert's down here. Indy gets one last encounter, and then Double does too, right before they get in the desert. So Indy's just maybe a second ahead of Double right now. This has just been a very, very close race from the start at this point. Most races you might see somebody like take a lead of a few minutes and then slowly lose it as they get bad encounters or something like that, but these guys have been pretty much neck and neck the whole time. So now they're going to head, now that they have their airship, they're going to head first to the Citadel of Trials. Double has a little cleaner of a path to get there. We'll see what happens here. They park on a one-tile spot, and then they have to walk over there to reach the Citadel of Trials. Within the Citadel of Trials is an item called the Rat Tail contained in a chest at the end of it, and we need this in order to do the class upgrade that we're going to be doing so that our characters can cast the spells that we got the levels for earlier. So they're just making their way along this. Again, there's not particularly dangerous encounters here. The only exception is in the desert area. You might see an enemy called the Sandworm, which can cast a move called Earthquake, which can kill everyone. But it's a very, very rare encounter, and it's generally not something you're expecting to see very often. Double is the first one to enter the Citadel. Indy's not far behind. The Citadel itself is a little bit of a maze on this second floor here, and the first Double runs into his first unrunnable encounter here. Minotaur zombies are unrunnable here, so he just has to walk into these teleporters, which teleport him around part of the level, and make his way through the whole floor, and then finally get to the final floor. Indy gets a pack of Minotaur zombies, which are, again, unrunnable. So they're both just trying to make their way through here without too many dangerous encounters. Mind flayers and Medusas in particular can do some damage here to your party, or petrify or stone you. Up here, we see Double fighting. This is a forced encounter tile with an enemy called the Nightmare. Usually 1 or 2 spawn here. But unusually, you can actually run away from this encounter. It's just tough to do so with the equipment levels that we have with our characters, so it's generally faster to attack and kill the Nightmares than it is to try to run away from them. Double could perhaps get a preemptive, and that would let him run away, but we also do need the experience just to make sure that our mages reach level 19 by the end of this dungeon. So Indy is making his way through the teleporters. Double picked up the healing staff from the chest that was just past those Nightmares. We don't need the item right now, but it will help us later on with another item glitch that we're planning to do later on. Indy getting Minotaur zombies. Double's getting the 1 in 64 dragon zombie encounter here. It's a pretty rare encounter. We were going to run into dragon zombies at the very end of this as a forced encounter, but seeing them as a random encounter is very, very rare. So Indy's on to the Nightmare attack. This run is typically about an hour and a half to an hour 35. Double's near the ending. Double will stop and grab an item, the gauntlets from a chest towards the end. Once again, just like the healing staff, it's an item that we don't need right now, but we will need for the end of the game as a glitch thing. Double picks up the rat's tail here, and then he heads towards the throne and steps on a forced encounter with dragon zombies. Has to kill them, and at this point, Double should have more than enough experience on his mages. Indy getting an encounter with Medusas. Their gaze attack is pretty deadly in terms of wasting time, and if they can definitely paralyze your party members. If enough of them get paralyzed, it can cause problems, and potentially you could lose your whole thing. Indy picking up the wrong chest, but then he picks up the right one. With the gauntlets, he's unpetrifying his warrior just to keep the whole party pretty healthy, and then moving on towards the rat's tail and the dragon zombie fight. Double has made it out of the cave and is now heading back to his ship to pick up. Now that we have the rat's tail, he's going to take it over to the dragon caves and the Dragon King Bahamut and present the tail to him, and that will prove our courage to Bahamut, and he'll give us the class upgrades for our characters. So Double's opened a little bit of a lead here, finally, after a pretty long time that the two of them have been trading back and forth. Double's maybe not quite a minute ahead at this point, but Indy's making his way over now to go pick up that upgrade while Double walks out and back to his ship. So you can see they high-fived each other just as they got out of there. Now that Double's characters are class changed and they are at the appropriate levels, we will be able to actually purchase some spells that we'll use for later in the run. In this case, we're going to pick up first Healara, which is the only spell we're going to give to our white mage in this case, and then the first spell we're going to give to our black mage is Teleport. And then we will head next over to Elfheim and pick up the last spell that we will get for the black mage, called Haste. For the purposes of this run, Healara will be used pretty much just to quickly heal our characters if they're low on health in the menu, but it will primarily be used for the final boss. Our mage will be pretty much on healing duty, our white mage, at that point, and she'll be using that every round. And the black mage will be using Haste on some of the last fights in the game, and we'll be using Teleport to let us quickly get in and out of dungeons more quickly. So Indy's at Melman now and picking up the first of the few spells. Double has now entered the next dungeon, Mount Gulg, after he's picked up the spells. Indy, there are, again, 5 floors in this dungeon, but it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5 in that order, so you go up and down a few times. So Double's on the second run on the 3rd floor. You'll see him running on these lava tiles, which will damage his characters 1 point of damage per tile, but you can't get encounters on lava tiles, so it's actually more beneficial to run on them because encounters will waste far more time than you will spend trying to heal the damage. So Double's now on the final floor. He's heading down, and he's going to run right to the second fiend. The fiend guarding the second crystal, Marilith. Indy is making his way now. He's on the 3rd floor, but he's got to go through a few splits. He's going to go through 4th, and then back to 3rd, and then back to 4th, and then finally down to 5th floor. Dubldrop, once again, the strategy for Marilith is just to attack her with the swords. She usually goes down in probably 2 or 3 hits, sometimes more. Indy's getting a handful of encounters here, and he's a little low from all the lava tiles that he's run over. So he's opting to ether up his mage, and he's going to start healing now that he has the Healara spell here. It's a little faster than trying to just potion everyone repeatedly. And he's on the final floor now, heading back down. In the meantime, Double's being shown. I believe it's Hellfire Grotto, I think is the name. No, it's not Grotto. Hellfire. I missed the name. I'm sorry. But Double's going to teleport out, and then continue on. Meanwhile, Indy is going to just attack with everyone and get Marilith down. And that looks like a 2-hit for him. Double is now going to fly over and land on this little strip here, and this seemingly empty-looking area houses a caravan, which is selling a fairies bottle. We need the fairies bottle to take to the next town, Gaia, and then once we're there, the ferry will be released, and we'll head to a spring that's at the back of the town, and will reward us with what we need in order to proceed to the next dungeon. So the ferry's out of the bottle on Double's side. Now he's got to walk around the town. It's largely just a giant clockwise path he's got to take around the town to get there. And then back here, he's going to find the fairy that was in the bottle. He also, after he bought the fairy's bottle, he picked up a handful of Giant's Tonics, an item that the vendor at the caravan is selling. And we will use these pretty much only for the final fight as a safety measure. Indy getting a very rare unrunnable encounter here in the desert, an Ogre Mage Hellhound combination. That's an unfortunate time loss for him. So Indy's buying the Fairies bottle, then he's going to buy 12, in this case 11 Giant's Tonics, because you could buy 2 or 11. It takes the same number of button presses with the way it works in this game. Double parks as close as he can to the next dungeon and makes his way to the next town, Onrak, where the entrance to the sunken shrine is. So he's entered Onrak at this point, so he's just got to navigate over to where the entrance. Indy's got the bottle out, and now he's got to go over and talk to the fairy. Once he's talked to the fairy, we get she gives us an item called the Oxia, which we need to breathe in the sunken shrine. As we're going underwater for the next little bit. So we start here on the 3rd floor of the dungeon instead of the first floor or anything like that. And there's 2 objectives here in the sunken shrine. We have to go first to the top floor to pick up an item called the Rosetta Stone that we need in order to access the next dungeon. And then after we have that, we'll teleport back to where we are here, and then head toward the bottom floor where Kraken is guarding the 3rd crystal that we need to restore. So Indy now has the Oxyel. Double, in the meantime, is making his way through the 3rd floor of the sunken shrine. He gets poisoned there. Not a big time loss for him. But this is, unfortunately, water elementals are an unrunnable encounter. There are 3 specific unrunnable encounters that you don't want to see here. They're very commonly cited on this 4th floor that he's on now. So water elementals is the first one that we don't want to see. Sea snakes are perfectly runnable for him, so that's a good encounter to see. But ghosts are not runnable. This is the 2nd of the 3 unrunnable encounters. So this is costing Double a little bit of time, giving Indy maybe a chance to catch up a little bit. We'll have to see if Indy gets the same encounter luck or not. Double with, yep, here once again, here's the 3rd of the 3 unrunnable encounters that we can see in this dungeon. So Dubldrop has already seen all 3 of them in this first section, trying to pick up the Rosetta Stone. Once he's to the staircase around the corner, he'll be home free to pick up the Rosetta Stone because there's no enemy encounters on the 5th floor. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm sorry. That's right. I have something else to look at. That's right. Double's picked it up now. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing. No wonder it felt like I was 30 seconds behind. Okay, so Double has picked up the Rosetta Stone, and now he's just going to teleport back 2 floors to the 3rd floor where we started, and then he's going to head to the other direction towards Kraken. And Indy, in the meantime, looks to have made up a little bit of time because he's also now on the 5th floor. I'm sorry about that, guys. I didn't realize I was looking at the wrong thing. Indy has the Rosetta Stone, so now he's going to teleport out. Double once again getting an unrunnable encounter. So he's forced to staff that group to continue on. Double is about 1 floor ahead right now. Double's making his way down. Along the way on this next floor, there's actually an item we're going to glitch once more. What is that? We got Sahagin, once again, doubles in Sahagin Prince and Chief encounter.
That menu was terrible. Also, what's up?
And double stops to pick up this chest, the light axe. We'll use this to glitch in another piece of armor called the survival vest, which offers even more agility and more defense than the thief's armlet or the black garb that we've gotten earlier. So he's going to put that on all of his characters, with the exception of the white mage, where he's going to put one copy on the white mage probably, and then using the healing staff we had earlier, he's also going to do simultaneously put a pair of lordly robes on the glove and helm slot for the mage. That raises the mage intelligence so that she can do more damage with the judgment staff. But it also lowers her agility, so she's going to be lowers her agility, so it's going to lower her chance to run from encounters compared to the other characters, and she's going to it's also going to slow her down in terms of turn order. She's going to be more likely to go last in the turn order at this point. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing towards the end of the final fight of the game. But for this point in the game, it's not great, but it's just a compromise that we've come up with in general. So Indy is now, I believe, at the same menu that Double was just at. Double is now on the final floor and heading towards Kraken. Once again, I'm looking at the wrong thing, aren't I? Double's at Kraken, I'm sorry. And Indy's getting an encounter with water elementals here, which are unrunnable.
I got a lot of unrunnables in Sunken Shrine.
The strategy for Kraken is pretty much the same as all the other fiends to this point. We're just going to attack with the barbarian swords. It should go down in a handful of attacks, usually almost always one round. So Kraken is down. Indy's making his way on the final floor. He's actually just behind Double. Actually, Indy is definitely caught up, I think, a little bit of time here. Okay. So Double has gotten through the cutscene that plays after you defeat Kraken, showing you the next bonus dungeon that, once again, we won't be visiting. And he heads on his way out. He's going to detour quickly up here to the waterfall cave and pick up the first of the two items we're going to need in order to access the next dungeon and reach the final boss before the final boss. So Kraken will be our next major boss. I'm sorry, not Kraken. Tiamat will be the next main boss. But in order to reach Tiamat, we're going to need two items. The first of which we're going to find here in the waterfall cave. Dubldrop has the better PB, and he's the current world record holder. This waterfall cave is a high encounter area. There's not many encounters are very dangerous here. Well, I think there's only one particularly unrunnable encounter here. But the high encounter rate can waste a lot of time depending on how many encounters each player gets here. Indy taking a safety save just in case of something extremely unfortunate. That's very unlikely to happen. Dubldrop, in the meantime, this is a one-floor dungeon. It's just a long, windy cave with a couple dead ends that you have to avoid. Entering at the very end of the dungeon, you find the item that we need. We find a robot that is holding the item that we need in order to access the next dungeon. And then we find a handful of treasure chests, one of which contains an item that we're going to do another glitch for. And again, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I gotta stop doing that. Indy's almost there, so here we go. We've picked up the ribbon from the chest, and this is probably the most unique glitch that we do in terms of the equipment glitching. We use the equipment glitch to turn the ribbon into an item called the Geekin' Axe, and we don't actually have a use for the Geekin' Axe itself, but we use the Geekin' Axe in order to duplicate more copies of the ribbon. And then in this case, we put the ribbon for the first time and the only time in this run. We equip the ribbon on the shield slot for all of our characters, as it's one of the safest. It's one of the safe items that we can actually put on that slot that will not soft lock the game. If they happen, the ribbon can actually call up an animation for blocking an attack in combat. And if we happen to put an item in there that doesn't happen to have an animation for blocking that corresponds to a valid animation, then it can soft lock the game. In this case, the ribbon does, so we're safe to put it on there. So now that we've picked up the warp cube, we're actually going to head first to Melmond, and Dubldrop is already there. He's taking the Rosetta Stone he found from the first part of the Sunken Shrine and taking it to this NPC who is translating it for him. Once he's translated it, we're going to head to the next town, Lufenia, and use our translated language in order to communicate with the NPCs there. If we had gone there without using the Rosetta Stone, or without having the Rosetta Stone translated, then we would be unable to talk to the NPCs there, and it would just be gibberish that they would talk to us. So Double is now working his way towards Lufenia. Unfortunately, the only way to reach Lufenia is a very, very long walk. There's only one tile to land your airship on, pretty far away from the actual town. So you have to walk through this forest and this marsh up here. It's a bit of a long walk, and you can encounter these Minotaur zombies, as Dubldrop is currently running into. Once again, they're unrunnable out here, and it can just waste a lot of time here. He's particularly hoping to avoid... You really want to avoid the Minotaur zombies because that wastes a lot of time. There are other enemies you can run into here, like winter wolves, which can, if you fail to run or have difficulty running from them, they can cast a move called Ice Storm, which can take some time away and just waste a bunch of time for you. Double has made it to Lufenia now. He's going to circle around. And now that he's translated the Rosetta Stone, he can talk to the NPC down here and pick up the second item he needs in order to reach the next fiend, Tiamat. He picks up the chime here. So now that we have the chime, we just quickly teleport out because it's faster than walking. And Double will start walking back towards his ship. Indy is once again just right on Double's tail in this case. Picking up the chime just now. Double getting another pack of Minotaur zombies. This is just slowing him down every little bit. Indy with a pack of Hill Gigas, which are a perfectly runnable encounter, and you generally prefer to see them. Any encounter that has Minotaur zombies here, including this Minotaur zombie troll encounter that you see Indy in right now, is unrunnable. So if that happens, Indy has to kill everything. You're both just getting a lot of encounters on this run back to the ship. Double sails across. He's almost back to his ship now. Indy's taking looks like a quick safety save. Double lands his ship nearby and heads first to the Mirage Tower. The chime is the first item that we needed to reach to enter the Mirage Tower. So Double's going to start making his way through. There are 3 floors here. And then on the 3rd floor, he will use the warp cube that we picked up in the waterfall cave and then teleport up to the floating fortress, which is another 5 levels. So we've got about 8 levels worth of dungeons to get through here. So Indy's crossing the desert to get into the Mirage Tower. Double's getting ambushed and losing a bunch of time to encounters here. It's a quick first floor on the Mirage Tower. Indy's onto the 2nd floor now. They're basically in sync here. Ooh, Indy gets a blue dragon encounter, which is a rare, unrunnable counter here. He was going to be forced to fight one towards the end of the Mirage Tower, but seeing one as a random encounter is a little unlucky here. And a vampire's doing some gazing over here on Dubldrop, which is wasting a bunch of time. Got a chimera that attacked Indy. Got a Cockatrice Pyralisk pack, but it's preemptive for Indy over here. So this is, again, a pretty tight race. It's just Dubldrop's getting some really, really poor encounter luck in terms of being able to flee. And another big pack of enemies. If he fails to run, that's going to be... He doesn't fail to run. Good for him. Indy is now onto the 3rd floor. Double's almost there. Indy is just about there. Oh, one last encounter for Indy just outside the door. Double fighting the blue dragon. Oh, it looks like Double just got ahead of him again due to the encounters. That was a forced encounter for blue dragon. And then this is the teleport we need the warp cube for in order to reach the flying fortress. So this is the 2nd part of this dungeon now. We're just going to make our way through the floors as quickly as possible and head to Kraken. Indy again taking a safety save here as he reaches the 2nd floor. Both getting in encounters in the middle of the 2nd floor. Ooh, that sync. That was pretty good sync. Double with another ambush, which is, again, slowing him down. Indy's now onto the 3rd floor. Indy with a 9-pack of encounters. Double with an 8-pack of encounters. That's pretty... They're just trading the lead back and forth here. This 4th floor is actually an endless maze. You can go endlessly in any direction if you really, really want to, but you only have to go basically up and over, up in one direction and then over 2, or even down in one direction and then over 2 in order to reach the actual exit from this floor. And then finally, we have the 5th floor. Indy's saving and healing, just in case of a rare encounter here. The most powerful enemy in the game. War Mech could be encountered here, but it's a very, very rare 1 in 64 chance of encountering here on this floor specifically. Double, on the other hand, is just, I think, a little fed up with the encounters and just going for it to just rush through to the end. Double has reached Tiamat's thing, and now he's opting to just take a quick heal before fighting Tiamat. Indy's, I think, slightly ahead of him just because Indy did it at the start of the floor and then got slightly better encounter luck, I think. So Indy starts the fight once again for Tiamat. The strategy is going to be the same. We're just going to attack with our barbarian swords and take him down. Indy gets the Thunderbolt attack. Double gets through it without getting attacked. So that's a little, that puts Double ahead very, very, by a very small amount. Again, this is a tight race. I mean, we're talking maybe 5 to 10 seconds, not more, between the two of them right now. So after this, we see a brief cutscene for, I believe it's Whisperwind Cove. It's the final bonus dungeon that is now unlocked. Again, we're not going to be seeing it, unfortunately, for those that really enjoy that content. This unlocks. Now that we've defeated all 4 of the fiends, we have what we need to access the final dungeon in the game, in the Chaos Shrine. So we're going to head back to the very first dungeon we ventured forward to at the beginning of the game, where we fought Garland. And then we're going to use the power of the crystals to travel backwards in time and confront the final boss of the game, Chaos. That's sync. That's pretty good. Double just slightly missed landing his ship next to the Chaos Shrine, so Indy caught up very, very slightly there, and it's nearly in sync right now. So this is all up to the RNG from this point on, pretty much. Execution for these guys from this. Indy opts to heal up and save. Double, on the other hand, continues on. Double getting a purple worm encounter. This is one of many unrunnable encounters that you're going to find throughout this Chaos Shrine dungeon. So Double's the first one to the second floor. Indy's getting a purple worm. Just a single purple worm is not too bad, but Double meanwhile heads to the third floor. Double gets an 8-pack of enemies, but they're runnable. Indy is continuing on, but he gets a preemptive. Double makes it all the way to Death Eye, which is a little mini boss ahead of on the third floor. And then the loot that we picked up at the very, very beginning of the game after we had rescued the princess, it is used here in order to remove this barrier that's preventing us from going to the lower floor. Indy getting a pack of green dragons, which is slowing him down again. So Double proceeds down to the second floor of the shrine. Indy's on to the Death Eye fight, mini fight. Dubldrop getting a encounter with dragon zombies, which are unrunnable. Oh, that was a mistake from Indy. He went the wrong way and had to fight Death Eye again. It's a forced encounter on that tile. Double is now in a fight with Ice Gigas Winter Wolf, one of the more difficult to deal with encounters in this run, just in terms of the awkwardness. It's an unrunnable encounter, and the Black Mage is often not strong enough to kill it with his intelligence using the staff. So you can opt to either attack with your other characters to kill the Gigases, which have more HP, or you can use the staff on your White Mage, which will do enough damage with the Loreley robe she has equipped in order to kill off it in one go. But she's also likely to act last in the party order, so it's a trade-off no matter how you do this. Okay. It's like Double is making his way onto the first floor now. White dragons and purple worms are the most common encounters you're going to see on this floor. Indy's now also onto that floor. Purple worms are unrunnable. If you see white dragons, they are not unrunnable, but they can be dangerous if you fail to run from them. Here we go. Double sees white dragons, but he gets away instantly. Indy gets a purple worm, which again is unrunnable. He's just going to have to kill that. And Double's onto the Lich's floor at this point, where he's going to see a lot of enemies that were a lot of Earth-themed enemies, as he's the Fiend of Earth now. So he's going to see Earth Medusas. Indy taking a quick safety save. Double continuing along this final floor, or this first of the four of the refights with the four fiends. Double with an ambush against Earth Medusas. That can really waste a lot of time if the Medusas cast or use their gaze animation. Indy continuing along the floor, getting better encounter luck so far on this floor. Also getting Earth Medusas, he's just not getting ambushed by them. And right before this staircase is the Lich. Indy choosing to save because the Lich here has can also cast Flare against us, and if he does so, it can do a lot of damage to our party and slow us down. But Indy gets lucky and manages to just take out Lich straight up. In the meantime, Double's just dealing with his Earth Medusa ambush that he's trying to get through. So Indy takes a slight lead here into the second floor. This is a Meritless floor. Double's gonna have to hope that Lich does not flare here, because his health totals are rather low. And Double gets lucky enough to get through Lich. Those were some... He's got plenty of health on his Black Mage. And even his White... And even his Thief's not doing too bad. It's just a matter of how much he does. Meanwhile, Indy has made it through Meritless floor, one of the shortest floors in this set of refights, and he's fighting Merilith now. Same strategy as before for the first three of each of these refights. You're just going to Barbarian Sword your way through each of these bosses. So Indy has got Merilith down. Double has just reached Merilith, and he's just chewing his way through her with the Barbarian Swords. They both have managed to dodge her most time-wasting move, Firaga. Indy getting a pack of Water Elementals now on Kraken's floor, and it's 5-pack, so it's going to be slightly awkward and require him to use a staff in order to kill him in one round. Alright, Double joins him on the third floor, and we'll see. This is probably the longest floor and most dangerous floor. Now, Water Elementals themselves are unrunnable, but Double got a lucky encounter there with a Water Naga. If Water Elementals happen to be with a Water Naga, they are runnable. In this case, they did. He got away from that one and then ran immediately into another pack of Water Elementals. And it was a larger pack, so he was forced to staff it to keep it to one round. Indy, also with a 6-pack of Water Elementals. This is going to be a really tight race to the end at this point. It's probably going to come down exclusively to Chaos right now. Double having a little trouble running from this encounter here. This is a runnable encounter. He's been having a lot of trouble running from otherwise runnable encounters. Indy is the first one to reach Kraken. Same strategy for Kraken. Just going to chew through it with Barbarian Swords. Double getting another Water Elemental pack. Alright. And we've got Kraken down on Indy's side. Meanwhile, Double has just gotten to Kraken, and it's going to probably get right into beating him down. On the fourth, this is now Tiamat's floor that Indy is on, and he gets one encounter just on the tile before Tiamat with Air Elementals. These are runnable. And now he's going to fight Tiamat himself. The strategy is going to change a little bit on Tiamat, where I'm going to opt to haste our Ninja instead to try to make, with the amount of HP Tiamat has, it's not realistic to chew through this in one round. So we choose to haste our Thief in the hopes of trying to make this a 2-round fight. It may still go more than 2 rounds depending on it. Tiamat is on his second round now, and he poison gases, which is going to drop Indy to low health, but nobody's dead yet. Double hasting his Ninja to increase the damage. Indy's gotten through Tiamat. Tiamat tries for a Scourge attack. With our ribbons, it's not a dangerous attack for us. Indy gets a post-Tiamat encounter. That could slow him down. But he gets away from it. Meanwhile, Double's got Tiamat down, and Indy is now making his way on the final floor. And he's just going to have to prep before the final fight and then probably take a safety save and then begin the final fight. So he's going to heal up his mages to full health. He's going to heal his characters to full health, and then he's going to perform one last glitch to put a golden staff on the white mage and a clothing. He'll remove the survival vest and put a clothing on the white mage in order to guarantee that she acts last in the combat round for the following fight. So Indy has started the cutscene. Double has just started the cutscene as well. Indy is just slightly ahead at this point, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so Indy's going to go for a strategy with using Giant's Tonics on his characters with lower health. In this case, just looks like the Black Mage is going to do it on to guarantee that the Black Mage can survive some of the stronger AoE attacks. And in this case, the Black Mage actually has a lot more HP, so he's using the tonic instead on his Thief to try to guarantee that they both survive the fight. So the first round is usually a setup round, and then everybody starts going ham on Chaos from this point forward. The Black Mage will continue to haste first the Ninja, then the Warrior, then the Black Mage himself for the first 3 rounds. The White Mage will heal every round. After the tonic rounds, your Warrior and Thief will continue to attack. At this point, and then after Black Mage is all set, he'll just attack as well. We've already seen a Tsunami over on Dragoon's side, or Indy's side, and now a Cyclone already on Indy's side. He's getting a very, very poor pattern, and hopefully doesn't kill his characters. It's probably going to kill the Thief, unless he's really, really lucky at this point. Yeah, the Thief is down, unfortunately, for Indy. So he's going to have to figure out what he wants to do about that, if anything. All right, now we're seeing Tsunami over on Double's side. Now we got Blizzaga on Indy's side. Oh yeah, runs can definitely end on Chaos. At this point, I think looks like Indy's just going to leave the Ninja dead, unfortunately for him. It's probably not worth the time lost to try to revive him at this point. And he's not in immediate danger of dying. Double's going to do more damage per round with his alive Ninja, but he was also a little bit ahead. He's a little bit ahead, and Double got some poor turn orders. So I'm not sure who's currently ahead right now. If I had to guess, I think Double's slightly ahead just because of the having. Yep, he is just enough. That was really, really close, though. Double gets Chaos down. Yeah, honestly, it was just the luck of having all 4 of his characters alive during that fight. So GG to Dubldrop with a tough victory that he pulled out at the end.
GG, Indy.
And Indy's got it down as well. I see you guys are in the channel. Double, are you in here?
Should be in here.
There you are. Congratulations on the win. That was a tough one, though.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, you were like just barely trailing behind him like most of that Chaos Shrine, and then I think you just got a better Chaos pattern, honestly.
Yeah, a couple of physicals helped. He got his.
He got a really early magic pattern, yeah.
It helped too that my Black Mage had a really high HP, so like my ninja not dying made the difference.
Yeah, he had his ninja seemed to have enough HP. It just seemed like your black mage had all the HP and his ninja had all the HP.
Yeah, well, I tonicked my ninja too because I knew that if I got magic pattern, that he'd kill my ninja.
Yeah.
It's like I'd risk it in a PB attempt, but in a race that close, wasn't gonna risk it.
And Indy, are you here?
Yes, I am, and I'm still trembling.
That was really close. You were giving him a really tough fight.
It was very, very close. At the beginning, I never thought that it would really come down to chaos, but it was a very, very close fight. And yeah, Double, thank you so much.
You're welcome, dude.
Great.
GG, you did a good job.
Yeah, I mean,
Give me a run for my money.
Yeah, you guys were honestly like neck and neck for a good 90% of that race.
I think the only time I like broke ahead was in Mount Gulg. Then I golded that.
Yeah,
and then my
definitely had a better
sunken just like went right back to neck and neck because I had a terrible sunken.
I just had a terrible citadel. Like on the first floor with the teleporters, I got like 5 Minotaur zombies.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this was disgusting. But wow. I'm still speechless.
I mean, it was a very, very close race. I mean, it's not quite as close as the 2-second race we had last night, but it was still just as nail biting.
2 seconds. Wow. 2 seconds.
Yeah, it was a 2-second
insane.
race last night. It was a pretty ridiculous race.
That's insane.
So, but I don't know if we have any more coming up today. I think we have other things going on today, though, unfortunately, in this channel.
I think there's another one later today, but it's scheduled a bit later, like in a couple hours.
Looks like we got some Mega Man 3 coming up next. So, well, thank you guys for a tight race. I think with that, Double goes to 3-0 and wins the group. And I think that drops Indy to what, 1-2? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 1 and 2.
And 2. I'm not sure what that does in terms of who's going to advance, though.
It's 2 advance per group, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Indy still advances.
Indy may still advance. We'll have to check on that later. But Indy may still advance, and he obviously, with a race like this, definitely deserved it today.
Thank you very much. I mean, even if not, the tournament was very, very great so far, and I really enjoyed all the races, like commentating and doing myself. And yeah, let's see what's coming up next.
There's a Mega Man race coming up next. I believe it's at noon. So if we're all set here, we can turn it over to Fiesel and he can start getting ready for that one. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned. We should have the double elimination bracket, I believe, starting some point next week. I believe it starts some point next week. Double may know that for sure or not.
Yeah, we're discussing that at the moment, but I think next week is what we're going with.
Okay. Well, stay tuned. We'll get to that portion of the bracket probably sometime next week, and I'm looking forward to it personally. With that, I think we're all set here. We'll let Fiesel get set up for the Mega Man race coming up. So thanks for watching, everyone. Go ahead, follow the runners, and then enjoy Mega Man.